Hey there, honey bunnies. Welcome to episode 39, a bonus episode this week. You're going to get it early. Let's call this week's episode Ending Codependency. There might be a subtitle in there somewhere. We'll see. Ending Codependency. What started me thinking about this is a couple of weeks ago, I was finishing up season 2 of American Gods, which is a series based on Neil Gaiman's book, American Gods. I won't spoil it for you if you haven't seen it. This season is far better than last season was. I actually didn't really enjoy the first half of season 1, and it got better and better, and I can tell you that season 2 is a lot better, even more, when you view it from a big picture view and as a metaphor for many, many things. Basically, the character Shadow Moon is going through some shit. Let's just say that. He's going through a lot, and there's a couple of characters, his dead wife, and who really wants Odin or Wednesday to go take her to save him, to come with her to save him through the things he's going through. And he keeps dismissing her and doing other things. And finally, at one point, he gets frustrated and says, "Doesn't anyone have faith in Shadow? Doesn't anyone..." I'm adding to it, but he says that. Am I the only one that has faith in Shadow? Or Shadow Moon, I forget exactly. But basically what he's saying is Shadow doesn't need saving. He's doing some stuff. And yeah, to us on the outside, it looks horrendous. And we should, if we were good people, we should, and if we loved him, we should be getting in the mix and saving him, rescuing him. From a big picture view, the things that we've gone through have made us who we are. So if someone had saved us, looking back at your life now, would you have wanted to be saved? Or would you, or are you grateful to some degree that whatever happened, happened, and you're still standing with the ability to sift through the ashes and find the jewels? Would you trade any of the experiences you've had in life? And I think at different points in our journey, we may say yes or no to that question, because many of us have been through horrible things. I've been through horrible things. Other people have been through things more horrible than me and things less horrible than me. But from our internal perspective, horrible is horrible, and it doesn't really matter. There's no criteria for what, there's no continuum of horrible when it's your own personal wretched experience. From the outside, I've seen this happen where people get caught up in trying to one-up each other on their victimizations, their pain. My pain's worse than your pain because yada yada. Okay, we don't need to do that, because pain is pain. Pain is relative. Shit hurts, let's just say that. And I'm going to wander around a bit on the topic of codependency. Don't hold me to any legal standard or dictionary definition of what codependency is. I'm going to define it for the purposes of our chat here today, and also pre-apologize for the sound of the fan in the background, but it's hot. I'm going to define codependency as the tendency to want to rescue others, be they human or animal, from their discomfort. It's like the mother instinct gone awry. Where we hear a cry, and this applies whether you have children or not, biological children or not. It applies whether you're male or female. But we hear a cry in the universe, and it's our instinct to go fix it, to go do whatever it takes to stop the cry. There's the people that run into the fray, and the people that freeze, and the people that run away from the fray. I am always the person that runs into the fray. My first job was as an emergency medical technician, and I was only 18 years old. And I was right in there in the literal blood and guts, death and mayhem. It is my instinct to rescue. And that has been a topic of growth for me for about 7 months, almost 8 months, this whole year pretty much. So I was talking to a dear friend earlier this week who was in a moment of crisis and had called and invited me to give her some information. Being a projector, once we get that invitation, stand aside because you're going to get the fire hose. But we talked about a regret she has. And I said from my perspective and knowing what I know about the subject matter that I was very glad that she had not taken the action that she was judging herself for not taking. And this happens a lot. People freeze in a moment and hate themselves forever after. Or they stand at a crossroads and turn right instead of left and forever after question that decision. Whatever decisions you've made, I'm glad you took them, because they mean that you are here today with a totally unique viewpoint on life. A totally you way of moving through the world. I think a lot in terms of collective energies. The bigger variety, the better. So when we were having this discussion, I ran through it in my mind again. Would I change anything? No, I would not. Making the decision to take a gamble on love meant 10 years ago I had to walk away from a career that I had really fought very hard to get. But careers, and this was the final decision maker. A friend of mine said to me when I was asking for his advice, he said, you can always make another career, but you can't always find love. And at that point, I wouldn't necessarily call what I was experiencing love, but it came down to, do I want to gamble on this and have this experience knowing what the cost is? And my decision was yes. And of course that came with consequences, some of which were, really burnt my life to the ground. And none in an initiating kind of way. Like none of that. Wow, it's like everything I have today, I wouldn't have had without everything that's happened to me my whole life. And especially over the last 10 years. But some of you know that we are in the process of divorce. My almost ex-husband is back where he grew up. And I'm having to watch him continue to struggle in the ways that, I'm not going to say destroyed our marriage, because I don't think it's one, it takes two, it's always two people. But the things that I chose to not participate in anymore, of course, are ongoing. This is no judgment against him at all, but I'm having to watch him now from even further removed distance struggle. and struggle and struggle and make decisions that actually amplify the struggle. And when I watched that episode and Wednesday turned around and was like, am I the only one that has faith in Shadow? Am I the only one that believes he's strong enough? These are the things I heard. He only said the one sentence, but it was like, am I the only one who believes that Shadow is strong enough to come out the other side of this, and it's something that is actually necessary for him to go through? And the gods can see those things. It's hard for us to see them, except looking backwards. Of course, we can go through it. Now, there's debate, and y'all, I think if you've been listening for any time at all, I don't believe in lessons. I believe we learn from things we experience, but I don't believe there's a deity or any force outside of us that's setting up lessons, things on purpose for us to learn from. I think we bumble around, and natural order creates, because of natural order, situations that we get to learn some things from. So the process ends up being the same, but the starting point of that I have taken issue with. Hey, it's my podcast. I can say what I want. But I've gone through this questioning process with cats. You know, there was one, I've worked with feral cats for a long time. Taming. I have one that was two that were truly born feral that I know. And the others, you're never quite sure if they have just been living on the streets for so long that they've reverted, because cats revert faster than dogs. Dogs will revert to wildness too. And neither of them can live in the wild the way people, amazingly enough, still think they can. But I've got a couple who probably had human contact at some point, but one of them took 8 months before I could touch him. And the younger one took me 4 months to tame, so to speak, but he's still a wild thing. He still has lots of wild cat mannerisms and whatnot. But anyway, there was, I always felt bad when I had to, it felt to me like break their trust to take them to the vet to get spayed or neutered. Here I had spent all this time teaching them to associate me with, tasty Friskies treats and canned food, and then I snatch them up and put them in the car when they've never even, it always was a struggle for me. But they had to go to the vet, and, that was that. And I struggle still to take my cats to the vet. I hate it so much. It's so much easier with dogs. They don't love it either, but, man, it's so hard with cats, and it always makes me feel bad. And that is, to me, codependency. That's me assuming that they don't have the skills and the resiliency that I do. That's me thinking of them as less than, weaker than, less skilled than. We could probably apply a lot of words to it, but the point is, we do that with people all the time. We treat people like children. I know at any point my almost ex can make just a few different choices and change the trajectory of his whole life for good or for bad. Things can get a whole lot worse. And things could turn around, and from the outside it would even look like a miracle, like he's that close to just a few different choices. But it's not my business what choices he makes. I've got this nailed in the arena of working with clients because I've been doing it so long. And it's such a hardcore value for me. You get to do you. When I say you do you, I really mean that. I'm not being sarcastic. I'm not being facetious or, trendy or whatever. I really mean it. Whatever you feel like you need to do, you go do it. If you want to join the cult of specialness around being empathic, then do that if that makes you happy. To me, I don't agree with it, and I'll probably do a podcast on it at some point. We can't treat our partners like they can't figure it out. I hear this a lot from, and have for years. I've been doing this, working with people to some degree, for a long time, well over 20 years. But a lot of times one partner will say of the other partner, if only he would this, if only she would that, if only this was different or that was different, if only you looked different, if only you acted different, then I could love you. Or someone's going through something and the impulse is to save them from their pain. That's really underneath it all to save ourselves. We can't not feel the call of the cry in the wilderness until we practice at it. We hear the cry of the call in the wilderness and it's our partner. We really want to shut that down. Not taking the time to ask, does my partner need to go through some physical things? Is this my business? 99.9% of the time it is not. And you get to choose if you stay and act as a silent witness or some sort of support to whatever degree they'll let you, or if you decide to go elsewhere and live your life differently. You get to decide that. When we can't stop ourselves from intervening, thinking we know best or thinking they can't handle the pain, that they can't handle the trial by fire that they need to go through in order to be stronger, more complex, more deeply developed, when we think we need to ease that pain for them, that is almost every single time an air quote wrong decision. Why don't we take a moment and have some faith in their abilities? Why do we think that they don't have abilities? Why don't we remember that a lot of our abilities came from coming out of terrible, wretched situations? I saw a post. This also got me thinking on this. I saw a post on somebody's page. I could probably figure it out if you really want it. But it was a quote by someone else who said, "You're not an empath. You have a trauma response." That traumatized people are hypervigilant and they read body language and smells and signals and all this unconscious information at a very high degree, and it's a trauma response, not empathy, not empathicness. And the way it was written was like, damn, that's pretty harsh. And I thought about it for about 2 days. I didn't respond in the moment because that's never a good idea. And then later I was like, I don't really need to respond to that at all. But it was good information for me because I don't really care how you got your empathicness. Now, of course, I'm coming from a different perspective, and now having studied human design, an open emotional solar plexus is an empathic center in the system. So I don't care what started the empathicness, whether it came out of trauma or it's just because that's the way you're designed. It doesn't really matter. You now have that skill. It's not like it goes away, I don't think, when you go heal from your trauma. And consciously used and being consciously aware of it, especially if you're in a helping profession or any kind of energy worker, you don't really want that to go away. It's a very helpful tool. It makes your sessions highly efficient when you can hear what's actually going on in someone's system about 3 minutes into them telling you what their problem is. The longer I do it, the faster it gets. Now it's like I can, hear the sound of somebody's voice and almost immediately know what's going on, where the block is. And it's not my business. If they're not a client or haven't asked me for that information, that's not my business, even when it's my closest people. I get caught up in, the animals are our greatest teachers. And children. I mean, I have 5-year-old twin granddaughters. They're fraternal twins, and they have been hands-off kids from the very beginning. They're surrounded by projectors. I'm a projector. My daughter's a projector. Her boyfriend's a projector. Anyway, they tell you, don't. Leave me alone. Don't interfere with my learning process, even when they are struggling and struggling and struggling, and you just want to, push one little thing so that it can all fall into place for them. If you do that, they are furious. They want the struggle. They want to solve the problem because it feels really good to master tasks. They're both generators. So mastery is their thing. That's their jam. They are here to master things, and they do not hesitate to tell you hands off. 10 years of living with my husband, he was very hands off. And he really highlighted to me codependency traits that I thought I had kicked when I met him. But I would, without even really thinking about it, would start to intervene. And he would always say, "Don't worry about what I'm doing, woman. Don't worry about what I'm doing." And I was always like, yeah, you're right. Why am I worried about what you're doing? Why am I trying to make your path easier? Why am I trying to solve a problem? Do I think you're dumb? He's certainly not. In a lot of areas, especially in the realm of kinesthetics and hands-on, he's a genius. A genius. I always joked that he would help us all survive the zombie apocalypse because you can throw a bunch of metal pieces at that man and a can of gasoline, and he can make an engine out of a pile of junk. No joke. So where are we doing that? Where are we not minding our own business? Where are we, and I've been guilty of this too, you put out an opportunity for people and they don't take it. And it's like, what the hell? You all are out there complaining about this and that and this and that. And I'm saying, here's a solution to that. And you don't want it? It's like, well, why don't you want it? Well, because it's not the right time. Because being involved in the suffering that comes with being an empath, regardless of how you got that skill set, matters more than ease. And so I've heard people say this too, like, well, I offered them the solution and they didn't want it, so Go ahead and suffer. I have a tendency to just flip it all back on myself, and sometimes that's not a great task. Sometimes other people really can carry part of the blame for things. I don't have to carry all of it. But it's okay if they turn down your program. It's okay if you throw a big bag of diamonds at their feet that busts open and scatters gorgeous diamonds all around them, and they step on them or kick them back to you, or don't even notice that you've thrown a bunch of diamonds their way. That's really not our place. Our job is to serve through ourselves and the divine by bringing forth into the world our creations. And that's where our responsibility ends. If we're parents, if we're partners, if we're therapists, coaches, or teachers, our job is to do the offering, and that's the end of our responsibility. If we're asked for help or clarification, then we have that open door to jump on in there and go until the person says, okay, that's enough, that's all I want, I just wanted a hint, and you gave me a master's degree a master's degree level discourse. But it's our job to offer, it's our job to bring it through, but where it goes after that is not our business. And attaching to our desire for a particular outcome for particular people is a dangerous path. It's dangerous because it's exhausting to us, and it's debilitating to them, depending on how bad it is, depending on how hard you're trying to save them from their addictions. Addictions are a gift. I got like 17 podcast ideas yesterday. I wouldn't trade my addictions for anything either. I'm still working my way through the food, which is like the last one. I was going to say hopefully, but then I'm not even going to say that. Because the things I learned from struggling with addiction and the different forms it has taken throughout my life have been such a gift. I wouldn't trade that for anything. So why would we want to rob others of what they're going to get from their addictions? We can offer, and we should, I do believe that. Especially when someone's struggling with an addiction that might kill them before they get the lesson. That used to really concern me when I worked with teenagers. It's like, I hope you get this quick, because what you're messing with can kill you before you get the understanding you need to get away from it. I don't want to take away people's pain. I want to stand beside them and support them, and consistent feedback I get is I'm very, very good at holding space for people to have their process and not be interfered with, and not put, they don't feel me putting any sort of script or trying to lay an image over top of their process. If we could hold space for each other and the world itself, if we could take all that outwardly focused energy and pay attention to what our daily habits are, can you imagine how much more energy you'd have? You can be an empath and never be tired. I'm living proof. You can be a highly attuned healer and never once get exhausted. You can work with people all day long and end up with more energy than when you left, when you started the day. When we held space for 8 women and worked solid for over 4 hours, Heather Westmoreland and I, on one of our first live event together, we left that event and went out to dinner, and we felt like rock stars. We felt so good. And we talked about it, like our energy was fine. It was better than when we started. You don't have to be an empath and suffer. You don't have to be an empath and spend your life swirling in the toilet bowl of codependency trying to stop everybody's pain so you can have a moment peace and quiet. If you've got a undefined root chakra or energy center and an undefined head in human design, you're going to feel pressure. But you don't have to act on it. If you're a healer or you give a shit about people, you're going to want to intervene. And you need to ask if you should, and if you should, how you should, and when you should, and how much you should. Many times people have wanted, like, let's say, an ounce of information from me, and I have doused them with a giant semi-truck trailer water tank. They've been like, can I have a teaspoon? And I'm like, teaspoon? Fuck that. Here's 5 gallons of information. Why don't you drown in that for a while? Human design teaches us how to ask those questions, and your body knows exactly if it's time to step away, or it's time to offer again, or if it's time to provide some things and step way, way back. Your body knows. Some people need to be on the border blocking things with their physical bodies, but not everybody does. Some people need to make a few phone calls. Some people need to write some blog posts. Some people need to write some protest songs. Where's the protest music? I feel like the 60s gave us a lot of good music that was politically focused. I could just be out of the loop. I'm not a big music fan in general, so I could just not know it's out there, but I feel like we're missing some music. Let me wander off topic for a minute. Okay, the last thing I want to relate to you about this and how it has been moving through my life so that hopefully you can see it. Somebody asked me the other day, because I said so many things were better, and she asked me what I did. She was wanting one specific modality and a list of 7 steps. And I do so many things all the time that there's no way I can point to this person's method was the one that did the trick, or that person's method was the one that tipped me over the edge. For me, that's not how it's worked. It takes a village to get Michelle past her money issues. Okay, it takes like half a planet's worth of healers and teachers and books and courses and workshops. You know, this has been my lifetime lesson, if you want to call it that. Let's say a learning process. Anyway, so what I'm doing currently is Created Life Academy with Sandy Amorim and Limitless You with Corey Michelle. I've mentioned both of them before. You can go to their websites. You can find them on Facebook. But this latest, and lots of it has been money-based, because 2019 is the year I master money. That's what we're doing around here. I'm also in Barry Tesler's Art of Money course again. I took Corey Michelle's Being the You Who Has Money journal class. Anyway, I'm doing a lot of stuff. So I can't tell you, go do this and you'll fix your money issues. Human design has really made a big turnaround. Plus, I'm holding the One Command 30-day programs on Voxer, which, by the way, that one starts the evening of July 31st. So just a couple of days if you want to get in on that. It's $33. So it's like $1 a day, and you don't have to do anything but show up and listen and follow the meditation. If you want in on that, thatmichellewolf.com/10 minutes. If you just go to my website, thatmichellewolf.com, you'll see the tab that says 10 minutes to more money. And get in on that deal there. Anyway, also a huge factor in turning things around, the One Command. Human design, all the stuff. So tonight I'm on, prompt number 2 of Corey Michelle's class, and every day's a journal prompt. And she posted the prompt for today, and instead of writing about that, I thought I was writing about that, but I went off on a tangent almost with the second sentence and didn't even realize it. And it's just free writing for 15 minutes. Well, not really free writing because you have a prompt, but I went off like in a completely different area. But what I really got, another piece of the pieces I've been putting together, is, when you're in a certain socioeconomic group, you tend to hate the other group. And I've never hated rich people, but part of this work has been undoing all the things you grow up with where, all the stereotypes. Rich people are bad, rich people are scary, and they don't care about anybody, and it's all about the money. And, we hear this stuff all day, every day. And now with our growing divide in America with corporate greed and, we've all got to recycle, but the corporations can dump their shit in the rivers in North Carolina, not Asheville. Their coal sludge and all the other garbage because the EPA regulations have been rolled back. Don't get me started on that one. But, anyway, it's unwinding that stuff, right? So there's family loyalty things. My dad's side of the family used to call people rich bitches. And if you were an introvert, then you were a stuck-up bitch because you didn't talk to anybody, or you would desperately try to find a corner of the room to hide in when there was lots of family around. My dad's side of the family is incredibly overwhelming for an introvert. And now that I know that I'm a projector, I really get even more why I would always feel like I was drowning, choking to death on cigarette smoke, but drowning in the energy. It's not that I didn't love them or care about them. It's just that they drowned me. Anyway, the hardcore poverty on that side of the family, I was working with that again tonight, and I was like, now why is this here? I've looked at this before. I've looked at their attitudes before and how I heard them and how it became like a need for their approval or a loyalty issue to do something different. And then I saw this vision of my husband having to do his thing. He's out there struggling, and he is struggling hardcore. And there's not a damn thing I can do about it. He's got to go through some shit. And I feel like so much love for him. I feel like Wednesday saying to the other characters, am I the only one that has faith in Shadow? Am I the only one that has faith in Shadow Moon? I have faith that he's going to get whatever he needs to get. And that might be massive success, and it might be massive failure. Nobody gets to determine that but him, and nobody gets to determine what success or failure is except him too. For me, if he ends up in a couple of different places that he might end up, I would define that for myself as a big fat failure. But he might not, and it might be the best thing for him. I don't know. It's not my business. I can't possibly know what's best for him. And so I came to these visions again about my dad's family. I can't possibly know why they never got out. My dad got out, and he offered them lots of opportunities to get out and be successful, and he offered them, the proverbial leg up. Many of them, several of them, above and beyond, like far more times than I would have offered them a leg up. And they didn't get out. They would go right back. They would, kind of get some traction, and then it would all just, disappear, and they would end up right back in the the poverty cycle. And for the longest time, I didn't understand why he kept offering. And then tonight I got it. It was that thing that they were hurting. He had gotten out. He saw from a distance things they could do differently, just a few things they could do differently, and their whole life would change. And he never could stop offering. And he never could stop sending out the lifeboat. And what I saw tonight is they knew where the lifeboat was. They knew. And he could have saved himself a lot of energy by just making sure that they knew where it was, and then trusting that if they got in the lifeboat, awesome, super cool. But if they didn't, it was equally awesome and super cool, because they were doing what they needed to do. They were following their life plan, whatever that is, if there's a plan. But they were doing them. You do you. They were doing them. And their pain made him keep offering, even to people that it was clearly going to end in disaster. I told you this would all end in tears. That quote from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy movie. I told you this would all end in tears. Even when it was certain gonna end in tears, he couldn't stop offering, because he couldn't tolerate their suffering. There's a stray cat I've been feeding for 6 months, maybe longer, all through the winter. It's finally now where it doesn't run when I open the door. If I move, I got to do something with that cat. But I've been asking and I will, but I've been asking myself, I don't try to bring the possums inside. I don't think about moving and wonder, are the possums and the raccoons and the bears going to be okay? It's codependent. They're fine. Sometimes they show up and they've obviously been through some shit. One of the bears, I have 2 that I know of, but one of them is not as healthy as the other one. He looks like he's been through some shit. He's got some scars. I think he's the same one that showed up last year as a youngster, because he doesn't look very old, and yet he's been beat up. He's been through some stuff. And I can hurt about that, or I can lend him some energy. I can, activate some forest Reiki and offer it. The whole second level of forest Reiki is about offering as a healer. The first level, I'm like, don't do this with anyone else. You take care of yourself. Then on level 2, we'll talk about working with other people. But on level 1, you work on yourself alone, period. But level 2 is all about that offering. We offer. As a coach, we put together our programs and we offer it. I wrote confetti and I offered it to the world. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere. Where's it supposed to go? Nowhere. Everywhere. It was my job to put it together and get it out there as a book. Now it's its job to do whatever it does in the world. I don't even really think about it. I went through the first few days of like hounding people for reviews, and then I was like, what am I doing? I birthed the book. The book baby is out in the world. End of story. So, we end codependency when we tell ourselves the truth. What is my real motivation for hounding my kids or my partner or picking up every stray animal that crosses my path? What's my motivation? Is it for their benefit? If it's truly for their benefit, I have spent time in meditation and prayer, and I have asked my body to let me know if I'm supposed to act on this or not. I've asked the person, would you like some help? I have some experience with that. Would you like some information? I've sent them a message, or I've, mentioned it in conversation. Oh, like, hey, I went through that before. I can share my experience with you if you would like that. And then drop it. We have to be clear. Am I trying to solve this because, one, I don't think they can do it? How arrogant we can be as humans. Oh, I don't think you can do it, so let me do it. Let me shove you out of the way and I'll fix it for you. You can be 13 and I'll still do your laundry even though I'm exhausted. That didn't happen in my house, I can tell you. Ask my daughter when she started doing her own laundry. Then she went to college and was horrified at how her peers were suffering because they didn't even have like basic take care of yourself skills. She got an alarm clock when she was like 9. We didn't do the, hey, you need to wake up game. She had an alarm clock. If she was late to school, then she had to deal with her teachers, not me. I knew that she would experience things that would hurt her and that she would be a better adult because of it. And I would offer, hey, do you want some help with that? Looks like you need to make a decision. Let's sit down and talk about options. You make your decision and I'll be here to help you change it if you need to, or pick up the pieces if you're making a mistake. So where are we trying to stop our clients' pain? Where are we trying to make our children hush or make our partners be different? Whether that's the clothes they wear, the food they eat, the jobs they take, it's not your business. And if you're reaching outside your own body energetically or literally physically, you're swimming in codependent waters, and there's lots of scary sharks in there. You don't want to be in those waters. I feel like there was one other thing I wanted to tell you. Maybe that's enough. My God, I've been talking forever. Okay. Oh my gosh, I've been talking for like almost an hour. Sorry, not sorry. I had a little ranting to do. So anyway, let's end codependency. Let's tell ourselves the truth. Let's ask ourselves what our real motives are. Oh, I remember what I want to tell you. I've got someone in my life who is destined to be an incredibly powerful healer. She's on her journey. She is going through some shit. And I'm so happy about it. I know what she's experiencing is a healer initiation, because healer initiations can from the outside look ugly. And they don't feel very damn good from the inside either. But I know what that means. I know what her sudden round of extreme suffering is. So I can stand back here and hold space for her and be thrilled, because I know where she's going. I can see it as clear as day. If we had that same kind of ability to trust that our children are going to go through some stuff, and we can hold space because they're doing what they need to do. Often, if I'm working with a client and they start to go through some shit, I can't help but cheer. If they have a good sense of humor, I'll I'll include them in that. But if they're not at a place of, if they're not at the we'll laugh about this later stage, I don't bring that up. But lots of times when a person is in pain, if you're a coach that can hold space, you're pretty happy about it. It's kind of fucked up. Like, the more a client suddenly starts suffering, the happier that some of us coach and therapist freaks get, because we know what it means. And we trust that they have the skills to get through it and to come out the other side and be so much richer for it. Not better, because it's not a better or worse. It's a richer complexity that you don't get unless you've been through some shit. Okay, I could go on and on. Clearly, I could go on and on and on about this, but I'll stop here. If you've made it this far, thanks. Thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you for doing your part in your corner of the world to let's all mind our own business. Let's offer to help and not just jump in. Let's ask lots of questions. Consent in all things, even the small stuff. All right. Think less, feel more. Check out your human design. Check out the Money Voxer group. You've only got a couple of days. I'm going to release this tonight, so you've only got until July 31st to do that. And then Sovereign Storytellers, you've only got 9 or 10 more days to sign up for that one. And that's the deep dive human design coaching, rewrite your stories, complicated class that I won't be holding again. So this is your last shot to get in on that one. It's all at the website, thatmichellewolf.com. Think less, feel more. Talk to you next time.